Hey guys, I'm out here in bright and breezy South Florida where Hyundai has invited me to take a look at this vehicle right here. This is the first ever 2020 Hyundai Venue. So, let's take a look. Alright, so let's go for a drive inside of the 2020 Hyundai Venue. We're out here in Miami, Florida. We're going to go on a road trip out to the Keys. Alright guys, well here goes the key fob on the 2020 Hyundai Venue SEL with the premium package. So if you go for the push button start model, you will get a smart key fob like this. And if you go for the key in ignition model, it will come with a switchblade like key. But looking at this key, it has a really nice weight to it. Definitely very upscale and premium. Something that the price tag of this vehicle definitely will not suggest. But surprisingly, this key fob is very high quality and has a really neat weight to it. You have your lock, unlock, your remote start right here, as well as your panic alarm at the bottom. It has bold accents on the top and the bottom. And on the rear, you have your chrome accented Hyundai logo with a smooth black plastic finish on the rear. Let's go ahead and start up the vehicle. So to start up, just put your foot on the brake. We have the push button on this model because we have the SEL here. So put your foot on the brake and push this button there. And the engine does not have the same sound that the previous 1.6 liter engine had. The previous 1.6 Gamma engine sort of had like that agricultural like tractor sound to it. But the new SmartStream engine reminds me a lot of that 2 liter that Hyundai has in the Elantra. It has a very smooth startup to it. So let's go ahead and take off. So for 2020, Hyundai has standard Android Auto on all of their 8-inch touchscreens right here. And this is actually the standard touchscreen found inside of the Venue. So it's definitely a really good size. And this model right here has the embedded navigation because we have the SEL with the premium package. So you don't have to do your navigation through Android Auto. You could do it through the embedded navigation system. And Hyundai says this is going to update automatically because they partnered with HD Radio. So let's press on the voice recognition button.
Please say a command.
Directions to Marada Bay Beach Cafe.
Would you like to set this as the destination?
Yes.
The guidance will start now.
And it's going to take us there. So let's go ahead and get on the road, and I'm going to give you guys a driving impressions video. So stay tuned. Now, as far as how the steering wheel feels, it has a nice smooth leather on it. If you go for the SEL with the convenience package and above trim levels, you will get this smooth leather wrapped steering wheel with contrasting stitching running within the inner portion of the rim. The steering wheel is a 4-spoke design in which down here at the bottom you have a mini hole where you can put your hand inside of if you so choose to, and you also have these grips here at your 9 and 3 position, and then you have these notches located here at your 10 and 2 positions. And your thumbs just go right into here, and then you grip down and you have a nice cutout in the rear. So I mean, the steering wheel is very confidence inspiring. It has a relatively small diameter to it as well, so it makes the vehicle feel a lot more agile and nimble. There are no paddle shifters on the Venue, no matter which trim level you go for. You will have to do it through your gear selector, which you just push to the left, and then you can go through your different gears down there. Alright, so under the hood of the 2020 Hyundai Venue, you'll find only one engine option, and it is going to be a 1.6 liter 4-cylinder engine, and it is going to be a part of Hyundai's new family of engines. They call it their SmartStream family, and it is going to be replacing the previous family, which was called the Gamma family. You also have your choice between 2 transmissions for 2020. Your base transmission is a 6-speed manual transmission, and then optional is a CVT, but Hyundai likes to call it IVT, and IVT stands for Intelligent Variable Transmission. And if you're not familiar with what a CVT is, it's a continuously variable transmission, and it basically has one long gear, but auto manufacturers tend to offer like mimicked or imitation gears within it, so it feels like a traditional automatic transmission. And it has a total of 8 virtual gears, so it's going to mimic an 8-speed automatic transmission. The steering, you know, is a little on the soft side, but if you want it to be heavier, you just put it into sport mode. But we're still in normal mode right now, and it still has very quick get up and go. It's not underpowered by any stretch of the imagination, especially when you're in like this type of urban setting. It's not like, it doesn't feel like, oh, it needs a bunch more power, even though it's a 1.6, no turbocharger or anything like that. What really makes up for it is this intelligent variable transmission. It gives you that instant torque that you want while still giving you the fuel economy that you need. Oh look, there goes the Venue. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. What the heck? I tell you, this place is like a stinking amusement park. Oh my gosh. And look, now with trains coming, we're never gonna get back. Alright, so we're going to get across an intersection here, so you're gonna see how quick the get up and go is. I'm gonna put it into sport mode because that's gonna give us the quickest acceleration. And I'm also gonna put it in manual shiftability mode so we can see how quick it gets up to speed in a straightaway.
Go.
Alright, here we go.
Continue for 46 miles.
Actually has that real transmission feel when you're shifting through, but when we were accelerating, you got quite a bit of engine noise coming in, but it wasn't like annoying engine noise. It didn't feel like you were hurting the car whatsoever. It felt natural. The engine had a natural noise to it. Wasn't any unpleasant chattering coming through the firewall or anything. It was just very compliant. I mean, it feels like an actual automatic once you put it into sport mode and you're really accelerating. It gives you that lurching feel, and it feels like a real automatic. So Hyundai definitely fine-tuned that quite well, especially considering this is an all-new powertrain. Quite impressed with how refined it is right out the gate. This vehicle is going to be competing more with subcompact utility vehicles and even some compact hatchbacks and subcompact hatchbacks, vehicles in the sub $20,000 or low $20,000 range. All right, so we just made a pit stop at Starbucks and we parked right next to a Nissan Kicks, which is actually one of the Venue's competitors, but the Venue is actually going to be a little bit shorter. The Venue is actually, I believe, the shortest offering in the subcompact utility vehicle segment. You could really see from the front. You're gonna notice that the Kicks is going to stick out ever so slightly more in the front. But all in all, both vehicles are very similarly sized, and I couldn't miss this bright orange. And you can't really miss this blue either. It's not as bright as other blues that Hyundai has made. This is a little bit more of a deep blue. It's not like an electric blue. I really would have liked to have seen them offer that color on the Venue, but there you have it. All right, so we just got our beverages. We took a little pit stop, and this is also your pit stop to go down below and hit the subscribe button as well as like this video. But without further ado, let's continue with this video. It has a nice linear braking feel. It's not too grabby, so when you press the brake, it's not gonna like lurch you forward. It has a nice smooth brake, and then when you come to a complete stop, it's very easy to softly stop this vehicle. Its brakes are not like super grabby, and I really like that because some vehicles definitely have super grabby brakes, especially when they're a brand new car. And front disc brakes with rear drum brakes will be standard on the SE Venue, and that's pretty much typical to most vehicles in this class. But what's not typical, especially of a vehicle of this small of a footprint, are disc brakes. But Hyundai is going to give you disc brakes on your SEL and above trim levels, so you'll get disc brakes on both your front and your rear wheels on the SEL and the Denim. All right, so this is where your drive mode selector is located. It's located right behind your gear selector. And it's a rotary knob with a nice rubberized feel on it and a glossy accent on top. And it says drive mode, so it's very easy to locate. And if you have it all the way to the left, it'll be in normal mode, which will pretty much give you the best fuel economy possible, and it will imitate an 8-speed automatic transmission. If you click it over to the right once, it'll put you into sport mode, which is going to rev the engine a little bit higher. It's also going to make the steering feel a little bit heavier and make the throttle a little bit more touchy. And you also have a snow mode, which you click all the way over to the right. And snow mode will basically be for what it's labeled for. If you're driving in snow, this vehicle will prevent the slippage of the front wheels. So the main reason why Hyundai is offering a snow mode and not an all-wheel drive option on the Venue is because all-wheel drive is more expensive to produce. So it'll definitely be less cost effective, and they're trying to keep this vehicle in the low $20,000 range for higher end trim levels. I think it maxes out around $23,000, and they don't want to bump it any higher than that. So to keep it at that low price point, they have implemented a snow mode, and it's also going to allow for you to still get good fuel economy because power will still only be sent to the front wheels. And that's the perfect segue into what this vehicle gets in terms of fuel economy. So we have the intelligent variable transmission model here. In the city, you should expect 30 miles per gallon. On the highway, 34. And then combined should be around 32 miles per gallon. If you go for the manual transmission, you'll be looking at 27 in the city, 35 on the highway, and 30 combined. So hopefully we can get around 34 miles per gallon on the highway, but I feel like we're gonna get even better than that because I don't have a lead foot, but I'm gonna definitely drive like how a normal person will drive. I'm not gonna try to give the Venue any type of advantage out here in South Florida. Definitely how the average person will drive. It really revs. When you're in sport mode, this car gets up and goes. When you're in normal mode, it's not as inspiring to drive, but that's when you're driving more in local urban areas. You're trying to get the best fuel economy, or you're coasting on the highway, put it into normal mode. But if you're trying to get up and go, like right there, put it in sport mode, shift through your own gears, and it gets up and goes. And we are approaching a school zone, so let's see how this car goes in a low speed setting. So let's go out of sport mode, because a lot of you guys are probably going to be driving this car, dropping off your kids to school. And I daily drive a Veloster with the dual clutch transmission with the 1.6 Gamma engine, and it's not as smooth as something like this IVT. This new IVT, I feel like, is a really good companion to this 1.6 liter engine. And what I really like about it is that you don't get like that lurching where it wants to shift into another gear, because there's no other gears to shift into. And it's actually extremely easy to keep a constant speed, because a lot of other cars, especially my dual clutch transmission, it always wants to upshift or downshift, and it seems like it's always confused, and it's very difficult to keep it at a particular speed. But we're just out of the school zone. Put your foot down, and the car gets up and goes. There's a little bit of engine noise coming in, but not a lot. I'm actually really surprised as to how quiet and composed this vehicle is in an urban setting. It's really surprising, honestly. All right, so now we're going to get onto the highway here. So we're going to accelerate. All right, so acceleration is not that bad. It gets up and goes. Hyundai says that they have a 7.0 to 1 ratio when it comes to the gearing setup. They're saying how right off the line you'll have quick acceleration. It'll have that really quick torque right off the line. And then when you're at higher RPMs, like on the highway, for example, it's going to have a smooth ride and also help you with fuel economy. And one thing I want to mention is how it's not tinny inside of the cabin. It doesn't feel like an inexpensive vehicle. It feels a lot more expensive than the price tag may suggest. It definitely punches above its weight. That's definitely sort of like what the Venue is excelling in a lot of categories. It's trying to definitely head out towards vehicles that are a lot more expensive and a lot larger, but you're getting all of that in a smaller package and a much less expensive package. So that audible warning just reminded me that I should talk about the different safety features available in this vehicle. This comes with Hyundai's suite of safety features. So standard equipment will be your forward collision warning with pedestrian detection. But let's say you're in an urban setting and a person perhaps decides to walk in front of the vehicle and you're not paying attention, because millennials, always trying to do multitasking, trying to do multiple things while they're driving. They should keep their eyes on the road. But let's say you don't have your eyes on the road, a person walks in front, the Venue will actually slow down and even perhaps come to a stop to prevent that collision from happening, which is definitely a really neat feature. Also, another feature this vehicle has, let's say you're driving down the road and the car in front of you suddenly stops, but you don't see it in time because let's say you're looking at the beautiful view here in South Florida and you're just daydreaming, looking at the view, and the car in front of you suddenly hits their brakes. The vehicle will slow down to reduce the severity of the collision, and it will slow down as much as possible by applying the brakes. And another standard safety feature on this vehicle will be driver attention warning. If it senses that you have been driving too long and it feels like you don't have enough attention to drive, it's going to give you a warning, pretty much letting you know that you should take a break. And one other feature, which is going off right now, is lane keep assist. It's also called lane follow assist. So basically what it does is if you go out of your lane, it is going to play a little audible warning letting you know that you are merging out of your lane. But let's say you go far enough out of your lane, it will actually merge you back into the lane. So I'm gonna merge a little bit off the road here. Beep, 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 and then it goes right back in the center. That's an awesome feature. And it definitely will prevent lots of accidents, especially if someone's looking at their phone or they're texting, not paying attention, which you should not be doing while you're driving. But let's say that happens and you perhaps don't have your hand fully on the steering wheel or anything like that, it'll turn you right back into the lane. And that's such an amazing feature. And as optional equipment, it will come with blind spot monitoring with rear cross traffic alert. So let's say you're reversing out of a parking spot and there's two very large vehicles on both sides of you. You cannot really tell through your reverse camera if there's a car coming from either side. It will play an audible warning letting you know that it's a car coming. So you also have your blind spot monitoring, in which the Venue is going to play an audible warning letting you know that there is a vehicle in your blind spot. So it only works if you turn on your turn signal indicator. So that's definitely going to promote people to use their indicator, because if you don't use your indicator and you try to merge, it's not going to let you know there's a car in your blind spot because it doesn't know you're changing lanes. All right, so let's go ahead and get next to a vehicle and turn on our indicator and see what the Venue does. And it works on big trucks, little cars. Here comes an Accord coming up on the side of us. I'm going to turn on my indicator. There it goes. So any car, it's going to let you know there's something in your blind spot. So that's definitely a really, really neat feature that Hyundai has. I honestly would have liked to have seen that as standard equipment, especially since they have more advanced features. For example, your forward collision warning with pedestrian detection. That's a very advanced feature that was pretty much never really seen in the subcompact category. But blind spot monitoring is definitely becoming a little bit more mainstream, and I definitely would have liked to have seen Hyundai offer that as standard equipment inside of the Venue. Hopefully in future model years they will offer that. So we are approaching the end of our trip here. This is the one-way portion. The first half of our trip, we went from Miami down to the Keys. It was a little less than a 100-mile drive, and we were able to average 38.2 miles per gallon, and that was with mixed highway and city driving. It was maybe about 85 to 90% of highway driving, and as far as the city driving went, maybe about 10 to 15%. And we were sitting in traffic for just a little bit when we were stuck up by a bridge. The bridge opened up, so we were sitting at a standstill for a while as well, and we were still able to average. Actually, it's going up now. We're at 38.3. So it's definitely very in line with the EPA ratings, if not a little bit better, because we're actually able to get 38.3 miles per gallon in this vehicle. Here we are in the Keys. We're going over a bridge. We have the sunroof open. I mean, this is definitely, you know, a breeze, and the transmission is very smooth. All right, so here we are taking a mini ramp, and I mean, we're not going around this fast at all, but body roll is kept to a minimum. Very, very composed around these turns. I mean, it feels like a much more agile and nimble car. It almost reminds me almost like a sedan in how it stays very planted. And the other thing that's going to help with how planted it feels are the tires on this vehicle. They're low profile tires. We have the optional 17-inch rims. due to you having a low profile tire, you're going to get a little bit better handling and agility. It's not going to feel as wallowy. But as far as road imperfections go, you're going to get a little bit more of the road imperfections protruding into the cabin. But like I said, this vehicle is very class competitive. But if you really need to make a quick maneuver, you can make that quick maneuver without feeling unconfident about the car, because it's still going to have a very low center of gravity feel. I mean, it's an SUV, so the center of gravity is going to be a little bit higher than something like a coupe or a sedan, but it doesn't feel like that. And that's what's very, very impressive, because you have tons of headroom inside of this vehicle. Despite it having a sunroof, the front seats have a good amount of headroom, and I have this seat pretty high in this position. I could lower it all the way down. I'm 6 feet tall. So if I lower this all the way down, look at how low I am. All this headroom. So if you're 6'4", 6'5", and you think, oh, that car is way too small, look at it. Get inside and you'll be quite surprised as to how much space. I'm gonna raise it all the way up for some of you people that are a little bit more on the petite side, compact side, subcompact side. I don't know if people call each other subcompact. But if you're smaller, I'm gonna sit all the way up. I'm trying to touch the ceiling. If I'm trying to touch the ceiling, I can touch the ceiling. But if I'm sitting normally, my head's against the headrest, and I still have headroom all the way in the highest setting. So, I mean, Hyundai really packaged this vehicle extremely well when it does come to that. Your front suspension is going to be independent. In the rear, you are going to have a torsion beam suspension. But Hyundai says the main reason they did that is because they want this vehicle to be as practical as possible. And as you may not know, independent suspensions take up a lot more space. So that's why pretty much all cars have independent suspensions up front, because there's space up front, because all there is an engine, so you could definitely have some protrusion coming in for your independent front suspension. But when you're talking about out back, that's where a lot of practicality is held. You have your cargo area, and you also have your rear seat passengers, and you don't want to eat into that space. So to prevent that protrusion, decreasing the amount of space inside the car, Hyundai implemented a torsion beam suspension, which is pretty much a single beam across as opposed to two independent. And despite having a torsion beam suspension, this vehicle still remains very composed. Sometimes when you have a vehicle that has a torsion beam suspension, the back tends to want to like bounce around, but that is not the case inside of the Venue. We were, taking quite a few turns now. We're not doing like any type of like really in-depth like type of corner carving, anything like that, because a lot of this is straightaway roads. It's more of a road trip. We're just driving down to the Keys and it's a straight shot, so you're not having too many turns happening. But when we're getting on ramps and they're pretty windy, the car felt very agile, composed. The short wheelbase definitely helps with that. The low profile tires also help with that. When you have low profile tires, you don't have as much of that squishy sidewall happening, so when you go around that turn, it's very composed, planted, and it also helps that this vehicle has rather wide tires for a subcompact car. It almost reminds me of my Veloster, which the Veloster has surprisingly wide tires, but as standard equipment. The Venue's standard tires are not as wide as the Velosters, but once you step up to higher trim levels like this SEL with the Premium package, you're pretty much right in that same area of width of the tire. So it's very composed, you go around corners, and it stays planted, and it doesn't lose its place on the road either. The Venue stays and it has a track in the middle, and that also helps with the lane follow assist. Let's say you start going out in any type of portion of the lane, it's going to make sure it keeps you within the lane. And another thing I really like is even when you're going around corners, it works as well. So let's say you're going around a corner and the corner is tight and you didn't expect it to be as tight as it actually is. It's going to provide more steering input into your wheel to keep you in that lane, and that's definitely safe as well, because no one wants to have their car meet with the wall, because that's not going to be fun. So it's really neat how Hyundai also implements that on the Venue as well. So like I mentioned previously, the wind noise inside of the Venue could definitely be a little bit lower, but you can pretty much tune out that by listening to your favorite tunes. So let's go ahead and listen to a song on the speaker system inside of the Venue. And as far as the speakers go, they sound pretty good in my opinion. This speaker, when you have it raised up, it still has a rich sound, so it doesn't lose its quality. And I feel like the bass is also pretty decent as well. All in all, I can really see how Hyundai is going to be positioning this vehicle towards millennials. I feel like the majority of the aspects, especially as far as driving dynamics goes, really will suit a millennial's lifestyle. I just wish that possibly maybe in the future Hyundai should offer a turbo variant for the Venue. I feel like that would be a really good offering, and I feel like it'll make the Venue even better, especially for those consumers that want just a little bit more power out of their subcompacts. But if they want a little bit more power out of the subcompact, they can always step up to the Kona, which has a standard 2-liter engine or an optional 1.6-liter turbocharged engine. So I mean, that's always there for you. But I can see sort of why Hyundai doesn't want to offer a turbo in this vehicle just yet, because it is going to draw sales away from, for example, the Veloster, which also has a turbo, and possibly even draw sales away from the Elantra GT and the Kona. So they are going to position it a little bit under that as far as engine performance goes and obviously dimensions. But I totally understand the standpoint that Hyundai's coming from. So here we are arriving back at our hotel. We're just about a mile away from where we need to be, and I wanted to get back with you guys to tell you what we averaged total for fuel economy. We got 37.3 miles per gallon, and the overall trip was just under 200 miles. We drove all the way to the Keys, and you know, we had a few times where we did have to accelerate a little hard, but all in all, we were driving like normal people.
Right, then your destination will be on the right.
All right, here we are. We have arrived. As Android Auto tells us, you have arrived. Done. All right, guys. Well, there you have it. We did a drive review of the 2020 Hyundai Venue. And all in all, it's a well-rounded vehicle. I can't wait until I can get the vehicle for a more extended period to do an even more detailed drive review and, of course, a more in-depth, complete review. Well, that's it for this video. Comment and tell me what you would like to see in future videos. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. This is Marcus, and thanks for watching Drive and Be Driven. Keep it positive, and I'll see you next time. You can become a Drive and Be Driven driver today. Just simply click the subscribe button, and you will become a part of the Drive and Be Driven circle. Subscribing will allow you to stay up to date with the Drive and Be Driven YouTube channel. Thank you to all of my current Drive and Be Driven drivers for driving me towards my goals and dreams. Stay subscribed for more awesome videos like this one. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. This is... Oh my gosh, I almost fell in the water.